Hello, welcome to Gen Z Meets World podcast.
I am Aisha.
I'm Ahmed, and today we'll be talking about fears and phobia.
Scary stuff.
So, well, we probably won't be scary.
Yeah,
but
it's not
we're
like
talking about things that we're scared of.
Yeah.
And,
We're scared of.
we're scared of, and the whole thing in general.
The whole concept.
Yeah, concept.
Oh wait, my phone locked. Okay, so the definition. If we were to look at this one is the National Health Service. I think this UK site. National Health Service defines phobias as like an overwhelming and debilitating fear of an object, place, situation, feeling, or animal. And specifically, phobias are more pronounced than fears. They develop when a person has an exaggerated or unrealistic sense of danger about a situation or object. And then specifically, when you face a fear, this one is from MayoClinic, when you face a fear, a specific phobia involves an intense, persistent fear of a specific object or situation that's out of proportion to the actual risk.
Right.
You know, like when you say that in unrealistic fear, it doesn't necessarily mean like unrealistic. Like because how do you define unrealistic? You know.
Yeah.
So specifically, it is out of proportion to the actual risk. But you feel like it's like for some people they know it is not. It is out of proportion. For other people, they don't feel like it is in proportion. Yeah.
So. Going back, a lot of my fears and phobias actually started when I was small. I mean, you have them across your life, so there will be the ones that you start with, and I think the most prominent one that everybody knows of.
Everybody in the family, you mean?
And quite some lot of people outside the family as well. I mean, I'm pretty sure some people from outside the family knows actually. Is my fears of lizards. I think it starts, I'm not sure where it starts because I grew up with that being in my mind already. At my grandmother's house, there's even over here at our house here, but our grandmother's house especially, there were a lot of lizards.
So many lizards.
Just so many lizards.
Oh, grandfather's car. Have you ever been in the house? In the car?
I've never been in. I may have been in the car. I can't remember.
Right,
but I remember looking at the car, and there were lizards inside, outside, on the floor.
It's filled. I used to call our grandfather's car a zoo.
Yeah,
There's so many insects in there.
I remember you calling it that. So yeah, lizards. I'm not exactly sure why I'm afraid of lizards, but I think it goes to their jiggly shape. Because that kind of it feels like icky sort of.
Is it the jiggly shape makes you afraid of it, or the jiggly shape gives you an illusion of an icky texture that you do not like?
I think it's closer to that.
The second one.
Because I thinking back, I don't think that lizards do have an icky, or do they?
They have like a smoothish kind of. You're already you're cringing. They're not sticky.
Yeah. I can imagine. Yeah. So. Yeah, I think it's a lot of it's what I perceive from looking at them, because the thing is, a lot of that aspect of its characteristics also occurs in I can see them being a pattern with a few other things that I'm afraid of, like snakes
or frogs.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because I'm not afraid of snakes in the sense that it could bite me. I think it took me a long time before I know that snakes are dangerous.
Yeah, right.
First, I just did not like its, the way it's slithery. Not that it could strangle you, but then the fact that it could wrap around you is,
it's suffocating. Not
suffocating.
Oh, right.
Even if it's just wrapping, if you wrap a towel.
Yeah, it's it's not softly. Choking, but it's suffocating. It's
No, it's just the feeling of it being.
Oh, right. Okay.
That's sometimes shudder.
Right.
feeling that.
Yeah,
so frogs, snakes, but specifically lizards, because I think that's most prominent because I see them a lot. I mean, I rarely see a snake. A frog is quite common, somewhat.
But then
lizards are like
everywhere.
I basically see them every day, especially when at our grandmother's house. So that's like the earliest fear that I could remember, or phobia that I could remember.
Is it like generally the thing that you're like irrationally uncomfortable with, or irrationally fearing? Is it the texture of it, so you don't like this kind of like feeling? Is it?
I'm not sure about that as well, because the thing is, there's certain things that the texture is somewhat, it's like those things that you those jellyish thing that you pull and I imagine that lizards have that kind of texture,
right?
That's why I used to call that toy we had chicha, which is lizard in Malay, because but then when I have that and when I play with I'm fine with that. Right. So I'm not sure really as well what is it that causes that.
But it's not like danger.
It's not like danger. So but
it makes you anxious, definitely.
It makes me anxious, definitely. Super anxious.
Right.
Nowadays, snakes can make me anxious because of the danger aspect, less on the heebie-jeebies aspect, but more to the more to the danger aspect. But lizards, they still, especially whenever they just pop up right in front of me, and
which they often do.
They like to do that.
My childhood fear, a fear that I had when I was younger, or a phobia, was I remember that I was afraid of cats irrationally. But then it
happens
was
a lot at a lot of restaurants.
Yeah, it was a lot of like, because I mean, cats seem so excitable and they have like sharp claws, and so I always feel like I couldn't predict what the cat would do, and the cat might maim you. Like, it's true that when you grow older, you don't think that a cat can harm you that much, but when you're younger, for me, you couldn't tell how much can a cat harm you or not harm you. And because it often seems like there's like such mood swing with cats, everyone can agree with that. One time they're happy, then they're angry, and then they're playing, then they're sleeping. They're sleeping and they're awake and they're hungry. So it's so unpredictable. So I'm afraid that it can harm me in a certain way. And so especially when they get excited, I'm like, okay, I'm out. But they're even then, I've always felt like they're cute and they're nice, but it's so unpredictable. But then, so that was one. But then I got over that quite quickly because, cats are everywhere. And I have this thing where I want to get over all of my weaknesses. So, it's not like the fear was out of proportion. So maybe, yes, it is a phobia, which they call it like gatophobia, was it?
I have no idea. It's very possible though, but I'm not sure.
Okay, so I was irrationally afraid of it, so it was probably a phobia. But then it's like pretty soon that I could get over it because I realized what was it that made me afraid of it. So but then I was also very much afraid of heights. I wasn't afraid of height as in I am afraid of the fact that because when I get to a certain point of height, I feel like the chances of me to accidentally slip is so high, or sometimes I feel off balance in general, and when I feel off balance, I fear that I might fall. So I don't want to be at a point of height that would be too high that I might fall myself. That was like my fear of heights. Like, when I'm afraid, once the fear kicks in, I become quite irrational. But I don't feel like it was so much of a fear that it's a phobia.
Yeah, because it is a generic fear. This is something that you should be afraid of.
Yeah, it was just that I'm worried, And so when I get at that point, I may be irrationally acting out,
but your fear is not irrational, because
I'm
it is a true danger compared to like lizards,
and I get quite high once I start getting afraid of it,
or arachnophobia, where you're just afraid of spiders, even though
cough.
It depends actually. I mean, I'm fine with like those normal house spiders now, but I still can't with those large.
Sometimes Ahmad is just looking at, like, you know, when you play certain games and they have, like, you know, gigantic spiders, giant size spiders.
Oh, don't remind me of that one.
I didn't know that he was afraid of spiders. And then we played this one game where you are in a cave and there's like lots of spiders in the area, and then there's like webs which makes you, you know, you're like stuck with
and
the webs.
Like spider eggs and like cracked spider eggs.
So we're like, you know, we're just like, we rush in. The spiders attack you, you know, so we rush in and then we rush out, and then Ahmed was stuck in the spider web and he was screaming, "Don't leave me, don't leave me, don't leave me." We're like, we're just here, you know, like, it's okay, the spider web will get, like, you won't die yet, it's okay, we're watching from afar, we can, like, you know, attack the spiders. So but he's like screaming and then I didn't know anything, you know, until months later. Then we were talking and then he's like, oh yeah, those spiders, like, you know, creep him out. I'm like, no wonder you were so afraid of that situation. I didn't know.
The worst part was like running away from the spiders and then suddenly reaching to the end of the lair, the cave, and there's like this, it's just a stagnant picture at the end. You can't pass the barrier. There's like an invisible barrier, but that's like a picture of the gigantic spider. Like queen spider, perhaps, probably. And I was just so
it's so 2D and flat.
Yeah, it's so 2D and
not
flat.
Not realistic.
Yeah. But when everything else is 3D, and you're like being chased by spiders, that's 3D enough.
So so it's not like my fear of height is like not that irrational. So I feel like, you know.
Wait, hold on. You know, it's 2D. There's like height and like, you know, that length. And the third dimension is fear. All right, you can continue.
Okay, so the fear of height is in, you know, like, I don't think it's a phobia. It's a fear, not a phobia. But then after that, other than that, I was also afraid of. I think I was somewhat afraid of the dark. But then I couldn't go to sleep without the dark. So it's quite of a dilemma.
Yeah,
like I couldn't go to sleep if it's not dark, but then when it's dark, I'm not afraid, but I get anxious. I get hyper aware, you know. Like when it's dark, I feel comfortable. I feel comforted. Like I feel at peace so that I can go to sleep. But at the same time, I also become hyper aware. So it's like a dilemma, and then thus, you know, I couldn't go sleep.
I remember that when I was very small, I could not sleep when it's like I could not sleep when it's bright, but at the same time I needed like total darkness if I want to sleep. So what I do is that I would cover my face with this small pillow before the light turns off, so that I do not know that the light is off. I know that the light is off because I hear the switch turning off, and I know that. So, but then because I don't see it.
Seeing is believing.
Yeah. So if for whatever reason I had to lift the pillow, and I put it back, it doesn't work anymore.
Yeah.
So.
But then the thing is that is interesting for me is that I didn't know that I was afraid of most of the things I was afraid of until so much later. Like when I was younger, I knew I was afraid of cats because everyone's like, Aisha, it's just a cat, it's just a kitten, you know. So like I know, okay, that's why, like, you know, I got over it pretty quickly because I realized, oh, it's, you know, irrational. But and then heights, people often say people didn't say like it's just a bit because it's like, you know, and they like, I don't know, maybe it was like more rational than the others, and they're like, it's like understandable, and so they do make space for me when it comes to height. But then there are things like, for example, clowns. I didn't know I was afraid of clowns until that was
2013 or 2012.
Yeah, so I was like 15 or 16 when I found out that I am afraid of clowns. Like, I had zero clue, like not an inkling. Heights, I could like kind of like tell that I'm uncomfortable with it.
Yeah.
Because like the moment when I found out, oh, I am really afraid of heights, was when we were crossing this I don't know what's it called.
What, Gigantes?
Yeah, in Malay it's called Gigantes. Okay,
it's the pathway on top that it goes over a road.
A busy road.
A busy road. Yeah.
It's like a bridge, but it's for human.
Yeah.
Human bridges. Human bridges over roads. Yeah. So when we were going over that one of those, and then I started clinging to the rails, then I'm like, oh, I'm afraid of heights. But then it's not like before. Well, we've never been at a very high point.
Yeah.
I wasn't afraid when we go on planes because, you know, I'm like in a covered place. But then when I have always noticed that I get like goosebumps whenever we lean over a railing, you know. I just didn't realize that the fear was so strong until that point when we crossed that bridge. I think it's because the ladders of the bridge like has a space where I feel like I can slip off, you know. And then like railings, it feels safe. Balconies, it feels safe. So, but anyway, clowns, I had zero inkling, like really, literally zero. What happened was that me and our other sister Anissa was watching a horror TV series. Yeah, it was like an episode of a horror show, and that episode had a clown in it, 2 clowns, but then there was like 1 clown at that particular moment. And so like
it's like the focus of the episode.
Yeah.
The clown
so like the episode started, and you know, like Anissa is really, she's very, very, very easily frightened by ghosts or the idea of ghosts. But she liked to watch that horror show, and I like watching horror shows, so you know, we watch it. So when the episode started, there's a clown, you know, which just came out. And then like the episode started, and this character was like running away from something, and then the character looks back, and there's a clown, you know, and then the clown goes like, I can't remember if it laughed or not, but then it was a smiling kind of clown, and it was like jumping, and then the character ran, and then I can't remember exactly what happens, but yeah, and then they showed the clown again, and then that's like the introduction, then they have the opening sequence, whatever, you know,
intro,
So at that point, because there's a break, and I was like, whoa, that's so scary. And Anissa's like, that's not scary at all. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, that's like one of the scariest episodes I've ever watched. A scariest scene. And she's like, it's not scary. I'm like, it's super scary. And she's like, it was just a clown. I'm like, it's a clown. I'm like, wait, am I afraid of clowns? And then I tried to like figure out, and I couldn't really place that, you know, exactly like am I irrationally afraid of clowns, you know, like not like how other people are afraid of clowns. Then we talked about it, and then eventually our conversation got to our elder sister, Ayman, and she said that when we were younger, whenever there's like we used to go to the supermarket where they often have like a clown who would, you know, tie balloons, make performances for kids, and then whenever
I miss those days actually.
I know, I do too. Whenever we go to those shows, our father would be like, you know, okay, go to the clown, you know, like go get the balloons, and then we'd be queuing to get the balloon. I would be holding our elder sister's hand, and kind of like hiding, kind of like trying to pull her away, but not exactly. And then when we get in front of the clown, I would be somewhat behind her, but also somewhat like trying to pull her away. And then she like, you know, kind of like accommodate, and you know, she's the eldest sister, she's nice and all that. So you know, and then we get the balloons, and then we go. And then I realized that from all of those stories, when I matched them back up, I was afraid of clowns. And what I was doing was that like I was like hiding behind her because, you know, I was afraid of it. And I was also trying to pull her away because clowns are dangerous. And I didn't realize that I thought that clowns were irrationally dangerous until I tried to think about it. Yeah.
That actually, talking about that suddenly reminded me actually, when I was, oh my goodness, I think we were using a VHS tape, so I was like 3 or 2 around that time.
Probably 3 then 2.
Yeah. But it's because sometimes some things I remember, I think it's probably 3, judging from other things. So I was afraid of Cat in the Hat, the live action Cat in the Hat.
The live action,
not the cartoon one. The cartoon one was fine. Yeah. The live action one. It was. I think it was. I think it will go on. It will be because of like it's sort of like Uncanny. You know, in the Uncanny Valley.
Oh, right, the Uncanny Valley.
Because I was really because the thing was like, you know, it has all the humanoid features. It's not human. It has like a human face, but it's not human. It's
Uncanny Valley is like this hypothesis, which is like when something like is so humanoid, it's specifically referencing to like robots. when robots have like too humanoid features, like too human-like. There's like that when you are your interest to robots or your affinity towards them, it's like it rise. The more human it is, the more you like it, and so there's that rise,
right?
Until it gets to this one point where it's too close to humans that it's uncanny.
Then it goes down
into
this valley.
Right. That's the uncanny valley.
So yeah, I think it falls under that because it was like really human, but it's really weird. So
the Cat in the Hat,
the live action Cat in the Hat. So I remember like even to the point of having nightmares about with Cat in the Hat. Like there's this one specifically that I remember the most. I think it was the one that I had the night after I watched that live action Cat in the Hat, which was. Our uncle came to our house and suddenly he turned into the live action Cat in the Hat with a candy cane in his mouth for some reasons, like sticking out of his mouth. And for a long time I could not see a candy cane without being reminded of that. It's not that I'm afraid of the candy cane, I'm fine with the candy cane. In fact,
I see a candy cane.
Yeah, but when I see a candy cane I'm reminded of that dream. It was terrible.
That's interesting because I don't think for me my fear of clowns, I don't think it was like the uncanny valley kind of thing. I mean because the thing is that some people do relate clowns to that hypothesis, like it isn't like robot looking like human, but it is something that's like human but it isn't.
Yeah.
Because I think for me why I was afraid of clowns was because when they're like all masked up, like with all the makeup and everything, you couldn't tell who they are. They might be a criminal in disguise. You have no clue, or if they are at such a point where they can do crimes and people will know who they are. If they do something and then you report this one clown, you have no clue who they are, and they are out in the open, obviously in disguise. And when people are in disguise, it's dangerous. And yet, everyone ignores them, and people like look at clowns and they're like, funny, silly thing, clap his hands. They might be, geniuses up to something,
And that's like actually quite a somewhat valid point to think about.
Yeah, that's why, I didn't know I was irrationally afraid of it because it's very rational. Everyone, like, of course not everyone, because obviously that's why people are taking the whole thing lightly.
Yeah.
But, people should be, and probably a lot of people would be worried about this clown, because it is proportionally
dangerous,
fear-inducing.
Fear-inducing.
At risk.
Yeah.
The risk is in proportion. The fear is in proportion with the risk.
Yeah.
Yes. So, and then I realized that no, people aren't that afraid of clowns. I still feel like the fear is like it's like definitely justified. Whether or not it is 100% in proportion with the risk, I have no clue, but I feel like there still is a risk, in it. But yeah, it is like, a little bit very, yeah. So, and then, like, it's interesting because if you were to match that up with all of the other fears I have, which is like, afraid of like cats because of how unpredictable they are, like specifically how I cannot tell
their
behavior, and so I might be caught off guard. And then my fear of darkness, which I had, which I no longer have, because I lose my sense of sight, so I am losing control over my environment. And then my fear of height, because I feel like I am at a state where I might not be able to, if I lose my balance, I can't control my situation.
You will definitely fall and you can't stop that.
And then, clowns, because I couldn't tell who they are. I couldn't predict what they might do, because like, it even masks their emotions. So, I couldn't predict like their actions. They might be, looking suspicious. You have no clue because they're masked up. You couldn't tell, So all of that, and also even my fear of losing my memory. I had a fear of losing my memory. I don't know if it's considered a phobia, But then I definitely was so afraid of it that I would fact check myself from time to time, and I keep logs because I know that memory is what builds up a person. That's a policy I've been living with since I was younger. So I don't want to lose myself. So I was afraid I'll lose my memory, you know. So all of that fear is sort of like, there's a common trend in it, a common pattern, which is sort of like a loss of control, or like losing losing control of the situation, and losing like your inhibition, which is just basically losing control, you know. So which for me is interesting because like for me personally, you know, once I see that reason behind it, there's a lot of my fears that I sort of like I'm not so afraid of. Like darkness is just because eventually I realized that I can navigate
through darkness.
It's just that I still sometimes get hyper aware, but I can sometimes most of the times I can calm myself down.
For myself, it's just that I'm afraid that I might bump into something and it will hurt my leg probably.
Yeah,
it happens.
You're no longer afraid that there might be things that you can't see.
Yeah, creepy crawlies and such.
I'm not so much afraid of creepy crawlies as like people, you know, dangerous people around. But then like things like I can like try to compensate for like my, you know, my hearing. I do get hyper aware, but then I'm not so afraid of it.
Yeah.
And then heights, I do not know. Okay, heights is interesting because, you know, I still will lose my control. But somehow I don't know how I lost that fear. Well, I can't say at all. 0%
but like,
fear,
at least not like in the situation where you're crossing that thing. Human bridge.
Human bridge over road. That I no longer get that fear because I remember when we were going hiking, me and our father and some other people were going hiking. We what do you call that? I can't remember. A cave. We went inside the cave. We climbed up a cave, and then we, you know, caves have those like points where there's like, you know, you're at a high point in the cave. And like
can imagine now.
So it's like a terrace, I don't know what you call it, but you know, on the cave,
something like that. A cliff in a cave.
Sort of like a cliff in a cave. Exactly. Yes. So like you're at this rock which is like kind of unstable, and if you know, slip off, you might fall down to your death probably because it's sharp down there. And I was looking at it, and they were showing, you know, this is what you might fall into if you're not careful, because, you know, they're trying to tell you be careful. So they showed it, and I was on it, and I looked down, and I kept on walking. Later on, I was thinking like that would have like gave me goosebumps. I didn't have any goosebumps. I was just like, oh, okay, and I, you know, tried to walk carefully. Zero fear, and that's interesting because I have no clue why that I no longer afraid of it, but I wasn't. You know, I didn't do anything. Maybe I was more confident because when I was younger, the reason why I was so afraid of that human bridge overhead road is because I was afraid that I might slip.
Oh, you might slip, right?
Because it feels like the steps were so steep,
right,
that I might slip. And when I was walking in the cave, I felt like I was in control with my steps. Like I was wearing the right shoes. My balance is cool because, you know, we do martial arts and we learn physics. You know, we know how to balance our balance and stuff like that. And so I felt confident, like at least more confident.
Because confidence does build up to like tolerance towards fears. So to speak. Overcoming fears. Yes.
Because when you are afraid of something, it is because like
you do not. A lot of times when you're afraid of something irrationally, because you do not know.
Yeah.
At least when you're smaller, you know. Like for example, I had a terrible phobia with rusty things and anything that that looks unclean to me. Like I could have something that's not clean, and I'm fine with it because I can't see it, or even if I could see it, I just do not feel like it's that bad. Compared to something painted brown that looks like some rust or something smudged onto that surface, and I could not touch that thing.
Yeah. In this case, it's not like fear phobia, it's like anxious phobia.
Yeah, got really...
It makes you anxious,
There's like... At our grandmother's house, there's this one tile with...
I know that tile. Yeah. Because I was also... Yeah.
She also had...
I was also very uneasy with like things that look, to our perspective, dirty. I have no clue why. It just puts
There's
me
like
so...
this one yellow dot on that towel.
Yes.
And one day, I was walking and I was like mindlessly walking. And I was like, I looked down. It was under my heel, and I was touched my heel. And I panicked, and I like brushed it all onto every piece of mat that I could find. Washed it, and I could feel that thing.
Yes, you could feel it.
I could feel that thing.
It.
Even though
there's nothing, but you can feel it. Yeah.
I mean, that place has been flooded so many times. It's been cleaned so many times. It's probably just paint, for all you know.
It might be paint.
Yeah, it might be
because
paint.
It's like beside a cupboard painted brown.
Yeah. So, but
fear.
Eventually, fear.
So irrationally.
So eventually I managed to
or anxiety in this case.
Overcome it by simply knowing that thing won't harm me. Like there's this one piece of mat that we use, which I used to not be able to step on because there's like this brown stains. Right. I'm not sure what were those brown stains.
I can't remember. Yeah. It's most probably rust.
Yes, probably most probably rust. And yesterday I just grabbed it with my hands, hold that like at the state that it was used, in fact, but it's fine with me now because I know that it will not really.
Sometimes, like, even though you know it still puts you off.
Yeah.
But then, if the thing is that phobias definitely, like fears, it depends, but phobia, it gets to a point where it messes up with your quality of life. Like. It hinders you from being able to do a lot of things. So if you are aware that you have an irrational fear, or you are if something makes you feel anxious to a point that is out of proportion with the risk, then it's wise for you to try to overcome it, because you don't want something to hinder your quality of life and etc. And knowing it, when you know it, it may still make you feel uneasy, but it's easier for you to overcome it because you're like, it's nothing. For me, when I was younger, because I was always into like getting over weaknesses. So when like, okay, I know that thing is nothing, I would step on it. And it feels, like really uncool. But I would purposely step on it to like make myself like overcome it. And it took years, it failed. So it doesn't feel cool at all. And I still sometimes avoid chairs with like brown stains, which is just rust, or paint, But then I still try to, I know when I was younger, I tried to purposely sit on them so that I don't, have that fear coming up.
I remember that reminds me of this one time. I'm trying to get over my fear of lizards. I Googled lizards, specifically like the type of lizards that you see here. Yeah.
They said the house lizard.
Like purposely made the picture big, touched the screen, like stroked it, drew it, like to try and get that.
Drawing. So because
because
you when you draw something, you feel it.
And like I'm making this thing basically. So that helped a lot to the point that there was this one time there's a lizard, that lizard, which my sister was like, okay, it's time you overcome your fears. You need to take it. So I was able to like pick it up.
Because the thing is that
and throw it out.
You were at a point where if we just suddenly go to him like lizard, he would be like screaming and jumping out,
Like, in this kind of case, if she threw this phone, I would probably throw that phone away.
Yes, because he's like, so afraid of it. He's like, oh, and he'd just throw it back.
I think one of the incidents of lizards that really traumatized me was one day we went back home from Dunkin' Donuts. I was enjoying my turkey toast sandwich.
Oh my god.
And my dad was like, hey, look, Ahmad, there's a lizard beside you. And I was like, people always tease me about lizards. I'm over that now. So I went on eating because that was like a time when I was starting to grow up and starting to get better with that stuff. And he was like, no, I'm serious. And I'm like, it's funny. It's a funny joke. And I went to eating. And the third time I was like, it was, this plate here. Right beside the plate, it was just kind of like looking at me like it. I don't think it blinked, but with the expression, with that kind of
blink, blink,
yeah,
blink.
that kind of blink, blink, blink. And I screamed. I threw my sandwich onto the plate, and it jumped out and ran away. And I was just
afraid of
lizards. Like, I wasn't totally over lizards yet, basically, but I was starting to get better, at least not overreact when someone throws stuff at me. But it just went back, and from time to time it can make me feel a bit like afraid, sort of, for a while. Like that one time at the hotel, I was washing my feet before I went to bed, and right in front of me, as I was washing my feet with the shower hose, a lizard fell down from the ceiling and just onto the floor. And then when we went back home after that, I think it was like the day after that, I think, we arrived home late at night. I went to my bathroom, and suddenly a lizard fell right into the sink I was going to use. And with that two events happening at the same time, it just every time I went to the kitchen,
it's like you have a lizard fearometer. Yeah, so like it's like you can count, like you used to be at an all-time high, like constantly afraid of it. Now you have like points where you calm down, skyrocket.
Because at that point I will always look at the ceiling. Okay, no lizards. All right, I'm safe. And anywhere I go, basically.
What's interesting though, like it's like, I mean, a totally unscientific take on it, but then like it seems like the fear, like phobias in general, stems up from like this. I'm not sure what exactly does it stem up from, but then it does have like something about like something that we are afraid of. And it goes into these.
I've seen that video. It's part of Minefield by Vsauce.
Yeah, I love Minefield.
I think it was like one of the earlier episodes of this first season where it talked about fears. It did say that like all these fears, and it gave a lot of examples. It will relate to somehow, at least most of it, but I think it was talking about like all, generally speaking. It will somehow relate to death. Like your fear, I think it was death at the end.
I remember an episode talking about something like that, but I don't remember exactly.
Because it from that one point, death, it branches out into these many things.
I get it.
Yeah, there's that picture, the orange circles.
But then I guess, I mean, that is if you were to theorize that you are afraid of that absolute end, Yeah. Because the thing is that not everyone,
But it's kind of like part of human nature to survive. Except if you have
to want to survive.
Yeah, but then because unless if you
what I mean to say is that not everyone is afraid of that absolute end. Not everyone believes that death is the absolute end. And if you do not believe that death is the absolute end, I can see how my fear of losing control, can relate to like death, because like I'm afraid that I would lose my sense of control, leading to like death. But then in the sense of like losing inhibition, and like losing memory specifically, it's like sort of like, because I am afraid, it can relate actually to death. Technically, death of myself, death of my character, death of my being, but not death, like that one death may not be for every situation. Like that hypothesis works if death is an absolute end for everyone. I think yes, because when I'm afraid of losing my memory, I am afraid of losing me, who I am and who I'm supposed to be, kind of. So when I'm afraid of losing my memory and I'm afraid of losing control, I'm afraid that if I am not necessarily afraid that I die, but I am afraid that it might lead to a situation where I lose myself.
So that's that part of you, that self of yours is the one that died. Because you can't really retrieve it if it's lost.
There are theories that simply put, because like we can so simply put, yes, that is true, but that still doesn't answer why are you afraid of spiders and lizards.
Because both of them are the same. They're like these icky things.
Yeah, why does that lead to, I think it shouldn't be death, that absolute one point. We're not scientists.
Yeah, we're not.
Like this shouldn't be like the correct theory, but I don't think it should be death being that root. I think it should be absolute end.
Yeah.
Whatever you believe the absolute end to be. It's just that there are a lot of people, especially people who are have a certain belief that death will be the absolute end.
Another phobia I have that's on the same line as lizards and spiders would be trypophobia, the fear of holes. I'm not as bad as, because some people are even more have it worse than me, but for me specifically only if the holes are like of a texture that seems to me as if it's like a bit. It's like if you cook a pancake in a certain way and it has like these air bubbles, and that could cause me to feel a bit. And it does bring back to the whole texture, that feel.
I mean, because I do remember when I was younger, I was like put off by certain textures. Even now, I'm still put off. Like certain textures don't do well with me, like velvet. Yeah, it needs to be exactly a certain kind of velvet for me to be okay. If it's that exact certain kind, I love it. Otherwise, nope, not cool. So I or like high pitched sound, it just makes me but then is it maybe
I think high pitched sound is not exactly a phobia. It's like,
no, that's it, because like the uneasiness with the texture when I was younger, the textures made me feel so uneasy that it like got to a point where I don't want to go to it, which may lead to like a fear or phobia or anxiety. I am irrationally uncomfortable with it.
Yeah.
So when I grow older, I know that thing that thing is just a passing feeling.
It's a discomfort. It's just,
I still do not like to be discomforted. I hate being discomforted. But it's just like I would still, if there's something high pitch going on, I'm like, what's that? And I try to stop it. But I won't avoid it. Yes, there was also another. I can't remember which site said it.
Yeah, I remember.
I think it's the MayoClinic. It says that oftentimes when you face a phobia or something you're afraid of to an irrational point, you would try to avoid it at all costs or endure it with extreme anxiety and fear, I think, something like that. So yes, definitely for me, when I used to need to face those textures or high-pitched noises, it was that way. And now sometimes it is, but it's easier for me to face it. So I'm wondering, if that also leads to when you were younger, because it's so uncomfortable for you, your body perhaps sense it to be harm.
Because that feel, when you're so discomforted, generally speaking, for your body, when you're uneasy with something,
fight or flight response.
When you're uneasy with something, generally it's because it's dangerous. So when you're uneasy because of discomfort, your body doesn't really, it just receives
your body
that
would do that reaction, the fight or flight, like the adrenaline kicks in, that whole thing that you learn in science. So maybe it's that, so like your fear of lizards still leads back to that absolute end theory. I would correct it. I really don't think it's death. It's absolute end. Whatever absolute end is to a certain person, just that oftentimes it's death for people. So that's our totally unscientific
view on this,
on fears and phobias.
It will be really cool if you actually know like the true thing, or like
the currently accepted scientific theory on it,
or if you have your own unscientific theory like we do, that will be cool as well to hear. Because it's literally what we do.
I mean, it's interesting to explore these, and because for me, definitely the coolest part about it is that it helps us overcome the ones that we have, the phobias that we have, and it helps us live better. And it helps because I don't think there is any way that you can justify living without trying to overcome phobias. There's no way you can justify not needing to overcome fears. So
that's true.
Yeah, so you do need to,
even though the fear is something rational, you do need to overcome it in order to face
you need to at least not fear it out of proportion.
Yes.
Perhaps you'd ask, what is the proportion? Well, generally, if you sit back and think about it, and maybe you ask people around you, people who you trust definitely, and you look back into why you are unproportionately afraid of it, usually you can sort it out.
Yeah.
Like, perhaps you don't need to get it to like 0% fear. You're still afraid of lizards now. But at least you don't have to be afraid of lizard, Like, you don't have to be afraid of that. So, yeah, that's our unscientific take. It will be interesting to hear your unscientific or scientific take if you're a scientist. This will be cool. And thanks so much for listening. You can leave a comment.
Or a voice message.
Yep. And you can also like the video if you liked it. Or if you are listening to our podcast and you can't like it, you can follow us. Yeah. For more of our conversations. It's really nice, having you, and it will be cool to hear from you again. Bye.
Bye.